we are in the lush Hampshire countryside. Peace and quiet is the order of the day here at Avington Trout Fishery. But just over there is Matterley Basin, the home of the MXGP of Great Britain since 2006. Last year, Tony Cairoli was kept in the shade by Jeffrey Herlings on his way to claiming the MXGP title. But the Dutchman is still out of action with a pre-season injury, and so Cairoli is in with a chance to continue his dominant start to the season after enjoying a perfect Sunday in Patagonia. The Italian, a four-time winner here in the past too. But Tim Geiser pushed him close in Argentina and is full of confidence for the season ahead, while the Jerry man was a surprise visitor to the podium. Since our visit to South America, please note that there has been a change to the 2019 calendar. The inaugural MXGP of China has been moved from its original date at the start of May to mid-September to run back-to-back with our maiden visit to Hong Kong at the tail end of the season. But back in Blighty, the MXGP of Great Britain is ready to kickstart the European calendar in style.
Here we are, about 6 corners away from the Monster Energy finish line jump on possibly one of the most famous corners on this Matterley Basin racetrack. So let's take a look at it in a little more detail. Now, as you can see behind me, the camber falls away quite significantly, which makes this part of the racetrack quite challenging. However, when the riders arrive at this part of the racetrack from the plateau just behind us, initially the fastest line will be through the right-hand side. It's shorter and it's not so cambered, which makes it the more favoured line. But as the day goes on and the racing continues, these lines will get pushed further and further wide. There will be a lot of ruts, and there's also the possibility of riders losing their front ends and their back ends, and mistakes come high on this part of the racetrack. We've seen plenty of riders falling on the way in, falling on the way out. However, some riders master this part of the racetrack perfectly. Remember last year, Jeffrey Herlings, his teammate Tony Cairoli kept a nice tight line. Herlings was up on the pegs, railed the outside, and by the time he got to the next left-hander, he found his way through, although that pass didn't last long. He got past somewhere over there just a few corners later. But this part of the racetrack will always be a challenge for the riders. We hope you've enjoyed our GoPro track preview this weekend here at Matterley. Stay tuned, watch all the action, because this part of the racetrack might just prove to be significant once again.
Yeah, so this is my second year in the team, and of course last year went really well. Everything that could have gone to plan did go to plan, let's say, and for me, I really enjoyed my year, and that's obviously the goal for the 2019 season, is just to stay healthy and make sure I'm enjoying my riding each weekend.
My relationship with Ben is pretty good. He is a really good rider and he's good competition to have as a teammate, and he's also a good guy, so I'm happy with that. I think I can describe myself as a pretty smooth rider. It doesn't feel like that when I'm riding, but they tell me so. I think it's a little bit like that, yes.
Yeah, so for the 2019 season we've gone to 2 riders. I quite like the change. Me and Jago get on good, and for us there's a little bit more focus on each other, let's say, and with the 3rd rider last year it was great because, you know, you've always got that little bit more team competition and something to, you know, make sure you're the #1 rider in the team, let's say. But me and Jago don't really have that so much. It's just we try to help each other, and now we've got that little bit more focus, so it's working good.
Last year I had a really big crash in a GP of Switzerland, and I broke my collarbone. And yeah, it was just a really big crash. It was pretty scary for me, yeah. But after that I had 3 weeks of recovery and I was already on the bike again, so I was happy with that. Then I could finish my season with Assen and Imola, and that's already some pretty good results with the new bike, so it was still a pretty good end to the season, I think.
For me, Argentina, no, it didn't go exactly like I wanted. I expected a little bit more from myself, but that was just because last year I came in, you know, just wanting to get some half-decent points, a couple of top 10s, let's say, and then I went 4-4 in the moto. So this year I came in with a little bit more focus on me, and with me finishing 4th in the championship last year and showing good potential at a few other rounds, I know what I can do and, you know, what I want to do. So to go there and finish 6th overall was not really what I wanted. If I had to describe myself in a few words with my riding, it would be, yeah, a smooth, more technical rider, but a little bit under my level at times where I need to find a little bit more aggression.
I'm pretty happy with how the first GP went. I had my first top 10 of the year. Made a little mistake in the first heat and had a crash, but yeah, the second heat was much better and I ended up in 6th place, so I was pretty happy with that. My goal for this year is to end up in the top 5 and hopefully have some podiums, but the season is still long. I had a pretty good winter. I'm feeling good, but yeah, we'll see.
MX2 race 1, and the 250 riders hurtled down into turn 1, and it was Tom Vial who took his 2nd foxhole shot of the season by a country mile. Michele Chervelin, wearing the GoPro, was buried in the pack as Vial, number 28, tried to pull clear on what was a chaotic first lap. Lots of frantic action as the riders jostled for position. Ben Watson fell whilst challenging for a top 3 position in the early stages. Thomas Kjær-Olsen had his sights set on taking the lead early, and on lap 2, the number 19 found his way past Vial. Mitch Evans was forced to make an early pit stop due to a mechanical. He did go out, but lost valuable time as Jago Geerts also fell early on in the race. Down to 16th, he would fall again later in the race. David Puchis was on a charge. He found his way past the fast starting number 53, Dylan Walsh, and that put him up briefly into 4th place. But then he got caught and passed by Calvin Verlanderen. David Puchis was next on the Dutchman's list. Up front though, despite a few wobbles, Thomas Kjær-Olsen was in control at the head of the field. A lucky escape there for Tom Vial as he was being closed in on by Henry Jacobi, and it was Jacobi who eventually went through on lap 5 into 2nd place. The German then on the FH Racing Kawasaki went after the 19 of Thomas Kjær-Olsen, the race leader. Geerts fell again. He would eventually come home in 16th. Maxime Renaux was having a fantastic ride. He was inside the top 10 in around 8th place. Eventually, though, he did get caught and passed by Calvin Verlanderen. He would expire on the final lap as well. A tough blow for the Frenchman. Verlanderen would come home in 8th on his HRC Honda. Conrad Mewse was running in a solid 4th position, but would suffer mechanical gremlins on the final lap. He would eventually come home in 6th place as Ben Watson surged down the inside of David Puchis. That move put the Brit well on course for a top 5 finish. Mewse limped home on the right-hand side as the two Yamahas of Watson and Chervelin battled. Watson went from 6th to 4th in one foul swoop. The Monster Energy Khmer Yamaha rider made the most of what was a poor start. Vial came home in 3rd. Jacobi was 2nd on the number 29, but it was a win first time out for Thomas Kjær-Olsen. MX2 race 2, and once again number 28 Tom Vial on the Red Bull KTM was first to arrive at the Fox Holeshot line. That's 3 now for the young Frenchman. He was followed over the line by Dylan Walsh. This time Thomas Kjær-Olsen, number 19, was right there in his wheel tracks as Jacobi, Matej Guarami and Calvin Verlanderen all gave chase. Dropping downhill for the first time, Thomas Kjær-Olsen wasting no time, finding his way past the Revo Husqvarna at the number 53 of Dylan Walsh. Just behind the number 29 of Jacobi. Made a mistake, he slipped a gear. That allowed Verlanderen an easy move through, and that put Verlanderen up into 4th position. Olsen swooped around the outside of Vial. And once again on lap 2, the Dane was through into the lead on the Rockstar Energy Husqvarna. Walsh started to feel the pressure from Jacobi and Jago Geerts. And despite showing a little bit of muscle, it took another lap or so for the 29 to find his way past Walsh. Watson was never too far behind on the second of the Monster Energy Khmer Yamahas, and both found their way past Walsh around about lap 6 in the race. Then Jago Geerts fell, just like he did in race 1, down to 9th place. He would eventually get back to 6th behind his teammate Watson by the time the checkered flag fell. Verlanderen eventually found his way past the number 28 of Vial to take 2nd with 4 laps to go. But it was a fantastic weekend for the young Frenchman. He was on course for picking up his first ever MX2 podium in only his 2nd Grand Prix. 29, Jacobi, homed in on the Frenchman as well. And with 2 laps to go, the German was through into 3rd place. That would ensure the 29 of Jacobi 2nd overall in the Grand Prix. 19, Thomas Kjær-Olsen for Rockstar Energy Husqvarna was sensational here at Matchley Basin. He crossed the line to take his first ever double moto win ahead of Verlanderen, Jacobi, Vial and Watson, and it was Olsen the overall winner. Jacobi came home 2nd, his 2nd ever visit to a podium. Of course, he was 3rd overall in Trentino and 3rd for Vial. Verlanderen, though, moves up to 3rd in the championship. But what a fantastic weekend here. Your top 3, Thomas Kjær-Olsen, Henry Jacobi and Tom Vial. And there's your new championship leader right there, Thomas Kjær-Olsen.
KTM, powered by Power Homes KTM this year, it's really good. A lot of guys came together, started a new venture for this year, and I think there's so much motivation under this awning, and you know, they selected me as their guy to go out there and do the business for them.
We wanted to start our own team. We've been working in GP now for the past 10 years. The previous 5 years with the Italian JK team. We wanted a British team, we wanted British riders. We've had riders from all over the world, Americans, Australians, all over Europe. It was good, but most of our sponsors are English. We wanted a big presence in the UK Championship, and he's the best that we have, in my opinion, and that's who we wanted right from the start.
I just really want to make sure I put 110% into it, the same as everyone else under this awning has, from the mechanics to the truck drivers to all the staff that works in here. I think if we can put 110% in on track, we'd like to win, we'd like to be on the podium. You know, the package is right, I feel good, you know, anything's possible. As a rider, I'd say I'm always a big smile going around the paddock, whether I actually feel like that or not. But when I get on track, it's time for business, and you know, I'm always giving 100% from the first lap right to the last lap. Whether it always works out or not, I'll always be there, and pretty consistent old guy. Becoming a father this year has been great. It's something that I've always looked forward to, and just didn't know exactly when the day would be when I'd become a father. It was this year, and Angus came along, and it's a really nice addition to our family now. And you know, Rachel's been doing amazing, and just seeing him and bringing him along to the races is such a cool touch. And hopefully one day he'll be able to watch his dad out there on the track and actually be able to say that he's proud of his dad. So that'll be nice. You know, Rachel tries to follow me around as much as she can, tries to be there with Angus coming along now as well. I think it's just the best thing to just be a little unit and just try and travel around together, and I think that's pretty exciting for the wee man. It's also, you know, pretty exciting for us, and I think if nothing phases us, we can come out the weekend actually having got away from motocross throughout the week for a little while. So sometimes as a motocross rider, your brain's just preoccupied about motocross the whole time, so I'm looking forward to this year. The Simpson Army has been something that I've had for a few years now. I think I started it back in 2014. It's just something that I talked to a couple of guys about, and I said, yeah, wouldn't it be cool to have something along those lines? And we started it up, and I had quite a following, and you know, it kind of stuck. There's a lot of people shouting Simpson Army, you know, when they're going through the paddock, and it's a nice thing to have, and yeah, let's continue it, why not?
After winning the qualifying race on Saturday, Tim Geiser was in confident mood of a victory, but it was Tony Cairoli who crossed the Fox Holeshot line for the first time this year. Gauthier Paulin on board here with the GoPro was about 4th position in the early stages of the race. Just behind, Jeremy Van Horbeke there, number 89 on the Honda SR Motor Blues machine. De Salle and Tonus gave chase. Before the end of the lap, Paulin found a way around the outside of Van Horbeke to move into 3rd. But all eyes were on Cairoli and Geiser at the head of the field. Paulin doing his best to keep them in check. Before the end of the first official lap, Geiser swooped around the outside of Cairoli, and the HRC man tried to break free. But it would come with a consequence, as Paulin kept Cairoli in check in 3rd. Geiser was pushing just a little too hard. So too was Van Horbeke. He lost 2 positions in one corner to Monticelli and De Salle, number 25. De Salle, though, was up into 4th in no time at all, whilst Tonus was trying to deal with the Italian, Monticelli, on the standing construct KTM. This was the moment that had everybody holding their breath. Geiser launched himself into oblivion. He picked up his machine in third place and rejoined the race. Cairoli was your new leader. Paulhan had his eyes set on a win as Geiser, bike and body, battered and bruised, did his best to fend off Dessau. Van Horbik was having another fantastic ride on the Honda in 5th, and he was shadowed by the number 4 of Tonus. Anstey, the 99, eventually found his way past Jeremy Seewer. That would eventually secure 7th for the Brit on the second of the standing construct KTMs. But Tony Cairoli, the Red Bull KTM rider, on his favourite track of all time, was doing just enough to edge out the 21 of Gauthier Paulhan on the Monster Energy Volvo Yamaha. A fantastic recovery for Geiser in 3rd, did enough to hang on to that position ahead of Clement Dessau. Van Horbik came home 5th, but it was Tony Cairoli who was victorious in MXGP Race 1. Gauthier Paulhan was never far behind, and it was an impressive performance from the number 21 on the Yamaha, but fair play and 10 out of 10 for Tim Geiser. Battered, bruised, he recovered for 3rd. How would he fare in race 2? After an explosive MXGP Race 1, all eyes were on the start of MXGP Race 2. Dean Ferris in for Roman Fevre, crashed at the start of turn 1, was ran over by several people as Cairoli cruised to his 2nd foxhole shot. The 2 Kawasaki's of Dessau and Lieber crashed, taking Anstey with them. Lupino on the GoPro here was forced to run wide as well. Meanwhile, a couple of corners later, Geiser was making his move on Cairoli. He made it stick. And this was a carbon copy of what we saw in the early stages of Race 1. Paulhan back there in 3rd, Jasikonis 4th, and Seewer in 5th on his Monster Energy Yamaha. Paul Jonas was also in there as well for the 2nd of the Rockstar Husqvarnas in 6th in the early stages. Geiser, though, looking to learn from his mistakes in Race 1, trying to smooth out the mistakes, was putting the distance between himself and Tony Cairoli. The gap now around about 5 seconds. Shaun Simpson and Arno Tonus were having their own little battle further on, and it was Tonus who eventually found his way past Simpson. That put him up into 8th place. Van Horbik, another good start, eventually muscled his way down the inside of the number 41 of Paul Jonas on the Rockstar Energy Husqvarna. That got him up into 6th place, a position where the Belgian would stay. Seewer gave chase to one of his buddies, Jasikonis, but on the track, it's all business. Dessau saved his Kawasaki from sliding out beneath him. He lost a position to Koldenhoff, but he eventually found his way back past the Dutchman and then went after Jonas. He eventually came home in 7th. Koldenhoff was just behind him in 8th by the time the flag fell. Gauthier Paulhan, Monster Energy Volvo Yamaha, once again looking confident on his new ride. He was in 3rd, but some distance off of the top 2, Tim Geiser and Tony Cairoli. Cairoli tried a last lap effort for the win, but it was Geiser who held on just. And it was he who went on to win Race 1, his first race victory since the French Grand Prix, the final round of 2017, and it was good enough for 2nd overall. Tony Cairoli, though, your overall winner here. Paulhan on the podium for the first time since Ottobiano last year. Cairoli continues to lead the championship. Geiser 2nd. Paulhan is now up to 3rd. And the overall championship mirrors the podium here today. Gauthier Paulhan 3rd overall for Monster Energy Volvo Yamaha. 2nd for Team HRC's Tim Geiser. Tony Cairoli, Red Bull KTM Factory Racing, taking his 87th Grand Prix victory and another win here at Matterley. He continues to lead. Next stop is Valkenswaard, the MXGP of the Netherlands.
So Matterley Basin has once again lived up to its reputation as one of the greatest tracks on the planet. A weekend filled with thrills and spills as Tony Cairoli stamped his authority on the MXGP Championship, despite Tim Geiser putting his all into his favourite track, and sometimes just a little bit too much. This was also the race where TKO threw his gauntlet into the ring for the MX2 title in the absence of injured defending champion Jorge Prado. We'll now leave Matterley to the sheep for another year, but there's no rest for the wicked as the MXGP circus moves directly to the deep sand of Valkenswaard for the MXGP of the Netherlands.